Welcome to the We Talking About Sports NCAA Top 10. A little segment me and Ben do 15 minutes, usually on a Wednesday or Thursday, where we discuss the college football landscape. And last week, Ben, we were talking about Duke and Notre Dame. We went with Notre Dame to win that, but it was a close one. Like the week before, where Notre Dame had Ohio State, Notre Notre Dame wins in the end closely this time. What'd you think of that game? What'd you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where having that veteran presence at quarterback kind of gets you over the hump. Duke had a lot of chances to win the game. Duke's not a bad school. Slowly we joked last week about Duke, the football school now,
Yeah.
but they've got a respectable program. You got to shout out the guy who started the respect over there, Daniel Jones. Right? Going back to his glory days back in college at Duke in the Manning Passing Academy, but man, Duke is respectable. They're live every week that they play, and I like to see it. I like to see the Blue Devils doing all right on the gridiron.
Me too, man. I really enjoy it. Like you said, they're not just a basketball school anymore. Now they're getting more well-rounded, so good for Duke. Let's get into the top 10. We do got some movers and shakers this week. Number 1, Georgia. Number 2, Michigan. Now I have moved Texas up to number 3. A little bit reluctant of me to do it because I believe in jinxes and I don't want to jinx my own team. But they just beat Kansas last week, a top 25 team, and they did it very convincingly. They covered the spread. I told you they would. They happened to do it. A lot of people were making, excuses for Kansas, saying, well, they had the backup quarterback. Well, that backup quarterback wasn't always the backup. He was the starter at one point in that school. He did take Oklahoma to 42 points himself. So he's not the worst guy, to have. Number 4, Florida State. Number 5, Ohio State. 6, Penn State. 7, Washington, another mover here. I do just like seeing what I'm seeing from that offense. And they're offering me a little more defense than USC is offering me right now. 8, USC, I dropped them down. We saw what happened in the second half. Once that elevation came into play, those players got a little tired, and Colorado was able to move the ball in the second half. 9, Oregon, and 10, Notre Dame making it back in with that win over Duke really helped them. And Utah losing to, was it Oregon State they lost to? That knocks them out of the top 10. Ben, what do you like about my top 10? Where did I get it right? Where did I get it wrong? Let me know.
Well, I've got to start with the homer team first. Texas, that dominant win against Kansas.
Yeah.
Again, though, it kind of took one quarter for them to separate. They didn't really start off too hot, but
First half was pretty close.
yeah, but they separate, and you're guaranteed to get one quarter where Texas is just gonna blank you, and they're gonna get in 2-3 touchdowns, multiple touchdowns. What I will say is, I think resume wise, this week obviously is the big one. We're gonna get into that, but I think that Texas should be ranked a little higher, Justin. Based off what we've seen off Georgia, I understand they're back-to-back defending champs, and they're got to start off at number 1, and they haven't lost, so why take them off of number 1? But I mean, Florida State and some other teams haven't lost, and they've been fluctuating. I don't like what I see from Georgia. I really think that in one of the playoff games, because they're going to make it there, right? They're probably not going to lose. They're going to be favored by multiple touchdowns going forward. But once the playoffs start, I think we're going to get a pretty decent, low, close line when they match up with either Michigan, Texas, or whoever that fourth team may be. But I've been saying it. I'm not liking what I'm seeing from Georgia. The tight end did finally have a huge game, right?
Brock Bars went off, single-handedly won that game for them because they were down.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they're down too much. They're down to South Carolina. They were down
to Auburn.
And this is an Auburn team that's not good. Bo Nix is gone.
Yeah, this is a brand new head coach too. So it's not like this coach has been working Auburn for a while. It's not a good look to be down by 7 to Auburn going into that fourth quarter.
Yeah, so the only thing I would say is I would take Georgia off the 1, just off the eye test. Not saying on paper they haven't done anything to lose that ranking, but off the eye test, they don't look like the number 1 team.
You know what, Ben? I'll do you this favor here. If Texas wins this week, we'll talk about who they're playing later. It's well known who they're playing. If they win, how can I deny them at that point? And how could the AP poll deny them at that point? They're going to be ranked number 1.
They would have the best resume at that point if they get it.
I think they already do have the best resume as it stands. They've beaten 3 top 25 teams or 2?
Yeah, but let's add this one because everybody knows that this is the game. This is the game that's going to make or break the
It's
season.
hard to deny him. I agree. Back half of the top 10. What do you think? Do you like Notre Dame making it again with that one loss over Alabama in the top 10? Or
Yeah,
like Washington USC? Did I get that right?
I like Notre Dame back in there. Like we said, after that Ohio State game, Notre Dame's schedule is not too bad going forward. You know, as they got through Duke as well, close game, but
Mhm.
they should be a one-loss team at the end of the season. And I talked about them getting into the playoffs. You know, whether it be undefeated because I did have them beating Ohio State a couple of weeks back. But a one-loss Notre Dame team, I do think is going to end up in the playoffs. So I am happy that you got them back in the top 10, you know, as fast as we did. Alabama's still not in there, you know, so that's something that in years past, that not the AP polls, Justin's polls, most people would favor Bama. But like we said,
Yeah.
we're doing the eye test and we're not giving Bama that respect this year off of one loss, right? Off
Yeah,
of one
I got
loss.
him at 11 for me personally. They're not going to go over Notre Dame. Notre Dame's faced two tough tests, real close with Ohio State, last minute drive, and passed the Duke test. To me, the eye test says Notre Dame over Alabama at this point.
Yeah, that's safe. That's safe, and I agree with that. So I liked it.
All right,
And
let's
then
move.
Washington and USC. Would just real quick about that, and even Penn State and Ohio State. Do they play? I'm sure Penn State and Ohio State play each other this year,
Yes, they
right?
do. Yeah,
So that's going to kind of sort itself out, and Washington's going to play USC as well.
that'll
That's
sort
going to
itself out too.
that's going to sort itself out. Oregon's going to be there in the mix as well because they're going to end up playing USC and Washington. You know, so we'll see how many teams the Pac-12 is able to get in there. Let's say they go round robin and everybody beats each other one time. You know, we'll see how that looks going into the Pac-12 championship.
We'll have to find out. Heisman tracker for this week. Again, it is the same guy from last year. Caleb Williams at the top, plus 180 to win the Heisman. Second best odds do belong to Michael Penix Jr. from Washington, who is just putting up crazy numbers statistically. I think Caleb Williams is just a little bit more efficient. He's thrown for more touchdowns. And man, it's incredible to see the kid play. This week, it has come out that he is willing to stay another year if it's the Arizona Cardinals. Uh, he said that he's going to make more money through NIL this year and next year. So there's no rush for him to go to the pros. Ben, what do you think about something like that, a comment like that?
I mean, it's he's sending the message early. We've seen it done before, right? We saw Eli Manning do it to the Chargers.
Yep.
So we've seen it done before. And right now, the way it's going, who knows if the Cardinals are going to have the first pick because I don't think the Texans are going to be the worst team in the league. And I say that because the Cardinals have the Texans' first round pick. And the Cardinals right now don't look like the worst team in the NFL either.
The Bears kind
So
of hold that right now, I think.
the Bears, the Giants are you know making a run for that as well. So who knows if the Cardinals have the number one pick? If they do, it's going to be because it's going to be their own pick. But strong words from Caleb Williams. You know what I mean? I like it. Sending the message out early.
Well, you see here Caleb Williams and Michael Penix at the top of the odds. Who would be your personal number three? And is it too much of a climb at this point, the way Caleb Williams and Michael Penix are this favored?
I think for sure they're too favored, and it just looks like one. Like I said, they're going to lose a game, right?
Yeah,
Because they're going to play each other. They're going to play Oregon. It's going to be
it's
tough.
hard to see USC with that defense go all the way through.
Right. But I mean, he won it last year and they didn't go undefeated. So
Yeah, true.
maybe if Penix can go undefeated, but it's Caleb Williams' award to lose. I mean, you know, USC, the run game just really isn't there. And it's all Caleb Williams. The O line isn't the best. They're having to outscore everybody because the defense isn't the best. What I will say is plus oh shit, I thought that was 500 on Quinn Ewers.
Plus
Quinn
900
Ewers,
Quinn Ewers.
yeah, I expected higher odds on him. I still think that's a little too low. He hasn't done anything special, right? But I mean, maybe with an undefeated season, I could see why
Yeah.
that could go that way.
He doesn't have the gaudy stats, gaudy numbers that Caleb and Michael Penix have. That's for sure. He doesn't have that. But I mean, Caleb Williams, two-time Heisman would be something to say that hasn't happened since the Ohio State days of Archie Griffin. Man, you would think if he stays that senior year, a three-time Heisman chance, that would be insanity.
Yeah, yeah, that would be crazy.
All right, well, let's get into this week's game. Everybody knows why we're here. It's Red River Week. It's rivalry week for Texas and OU Texas, depending on what the kind of fan you are. And the storylines: Quinn Ewers versus Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel didn't get to play last year. He did have a concussion leading up to that game, and Texas just blanked OU 49-0. A lot of the Oklahoma fans are saying, it's going to be a completely different game this year. Dylan Gabriel will be there, and it's going to change. And I just got to think, man, I don't know if a person's worth 49 points, man. I don't know if Dylan Gabriel's, can really change 49-0. What do you make of this?
Yeah, I don't think he can change 49-0 either. I mean, the Texas team, I believe, is better than last year.
Yeah,
The OU team with Dylan Gabriel, in form and whatnot. I think it's going to be a shootout. I really do.
100%.
Don't think that there's going to be a blowout in this one, unfortunately. I would like a sweat-free game like last year where you can just start talking shit halfway into the second quarter
Yes.
because you can just tell on the field. But I don't think that that's what's going to happen this year. OU's going to want to get that bad taste out of their mouth. But I do have Texas winning this game. They are favored by 6 points.
Six
I
and a
think
half now.
6.5 now. So I think rightfully so. But let's get past this one. And then, like you said, we're going to be probably moving up in everybody's rankings, AP coaches poll and whatnot. This is a big game, but OU's live. They're definitely live because the offense can move the ball. I just think that we're going to be able to score a lot easier than OU is based on the strength of the defenses.
So last year, OU only had 39 yards passing. You got to think that's going to at least quadruple. They'll have 200 yards passing easily this year. With Dylan Gabriel. He is a little bit better in the QBR percentage than Quinn Ewers is, but I think that's the matchup to look at. The difference with us is the emergence of Jonathan Brooks, the rushing game, the rushing attack. What we've seen with Cincinnati when they played Oklahoma, it seems like Oklahoma's linebackers are still not completely there. And I think that is going to be the difference for us. We're going to be able to run the game and control the clock and really control the field position against Oklahoma. So I expect Sark not to make this complicated because he can dial up some crazy, amazing passing plays. Run the rocks, Sark. I mean, you got the beef up front to do it. Why not? Why not go that route? Are you surprised with the games Jonathan Brooks has had? A 250-yard game last week. Are you liking that addition? I mean, we lost Bijan and you thought the run game was going to be hard to match, but here we are.
No,
better than last year.
I'm loving it, and we're winning in the trenches on both sides of the ball, bro. We've been winning in the trenches on both sides of the ball all season. So,
and we're only rushing 4 on defense and getting pressures, Ben. That's a big deal.
Yeah. We're manhandling the trenches. This is a week though, and OU. I mean, they're not the force that they used to be. I mean, they used to punk Texas after what we did to them last year and the year before. Let's make this a trend. Let's start a trend and. I think that this is a very winnable game from Texas. I would agree with the game plan you want because they can win in the trenches easy. They just got to commit to running the ball.
That's what I want to hear too, man. I like that. Let's punk them this time. Let's look at the Week 6 matchups. There's some ranked matchups. I want to highlight number 1. We already talked about OU Texas. Let's go to the SEC West. Big time matchup this week in Texas A&M home game against number 11 Alabama. You got to think, Ben, the winner of this game will represent the SEC West in Atlanta this year. What do you think? Who do you got? Alabama or A&M going into this game?
I'm going to go with Bama just because I don't like picking A&M. But, I mean, you say, like, this team's going to win it, and it's an 11th ranked Bama and an unranked A&M. The SEC's in trouble this year, all right? The SEC's in trouble. Texas is ramping up, and next year they're going to go into the SEC as big dogs, bro. I mean, it's crazy because nobody expected this down year for the SEC, bro. I mean, Florida's trash. We're here talking about Georgia on the eye test, even though they're ranked number 1. Bama's at 11, and Texas beat them. Texas never wins that big of a game, right? You got the LSU Tigers ranked in the 20s. The SEC, it's a down year for the SEC. Arkansas is not ranked. That's usually an automatic ranked team.
Well, they just lost to A&M this past week.
Right. They started the season ranked, but they're in trouble. The SEC, I think they might only get one team into the playoff. Usually you're looking at these SEC matchups and it's ranked opponent versus ranked opponent. Yeah. You know what I mean? But got an unranked A&M, an unranked Arkansas, an unranked Mizzou. So yeah, I think it's a down year for the SEC. I'm not really watching SEC football, to be honest with you. I'm watching Big 12 and I'm watching Pac 12 football. I think the Pac 12 is where it's at this year.
And some ACC. Yeah, I agree. Give me Alabama to win this game. I think what Max Johnson and A&M doing are pretty good, but I will lean on Saban. It feels like Saban is back after last week. If you got to see him on the sidelines, it felt like old Saban just woke up out of nowhere. He was at it. He was adamant with his players, and it's just a difference having a culture like that in the locker room, a winning culture. Give me Alabama to beat A&M. Let's move over to the SEC East. Big time game here. You've been saying Georgia's kind of slowing down. Now they got Kentucky. Kentucky beat Florida for the third time, last week, three in a row. That's another basketball school that's becoming a football school with Mark Stoops there. What do you like in that game? Because, Kentucky's decent. They're getting better year in and year out. What are you seeing
Yeah,
here?
I don't know what the spread is. I haven't looked into that one, but I can see myself being on Kentucky just based off the way Georgia's playing, especially Kentucky first half. I will be watching this one. I just said I'm not gonna. I don't watch much SEC football. I will be watching this one. But I think UK is live. I think that they're live, and definitely on the spread. I expect it to be 7 or more, right? At least a touchdown or higher.
I wish I would have looked up the spread. I'm not
I'm gonna look
100%
it up
sure.
while you give your pick.
So I'm gonna go with Kentucky here. I think the upset is in the making for
There
Georgia,
we
and
go.
I'm not, I don't think that's gonna eliminate Georgia from the college football playoff by any means. If there's a game that Georgia's gonna drop, this would be it. The offense of Kentucky's pretty decent. Devin Leary is the quarterback for Kentucky. He's a transfer from North Carolina State. He had 6,800 yards passing at North Carolina State. The kid can air the rock. So if there's a shot to take against Georgia, if you're going to say, here's a chance, this is it. So give me Kentucky in a close one. Georgia's probably favored by 10 or more. I'm going to go
14 and a
Kentucky.
half.
14 and a half. I'm going to go Kentucky because I got to give the one shot at Georgia is here. I don't think they're going to. This is probably the toughest test on their schedule, to be honest. They have a pretty easy schedule this year.
Kentucky's
Florida's not
gritty.
the level. Tennessee's not at the level. South Carolina wasn't at the level. So here it is. Here's
South Carolina looked like to be at their level on the field. But yeah, I mean, I like it. I like the upset call. I won't go that far. I'll take the 14 and a half gladly in my back pocket, especially because you can get that 0.5.
Yeah.
Shit. Even if they lose by 2 TDs, we're a winner. So yeah.
So you're taking the plus 14 and a half.
Kentucky on this all day. All day.
Here's a matchup that was not featured on this graphic, but we got to just talk about it because it's a shame they are not ranked. Maryland is going into Ohio State. We got Tua Tagovailoa's little brother from Maryland, playing against Cal McCord at Ohio State. Last week, he lit it up with 5 touchdown passes. The kid, I don't think, has an interception this season. He's on fire. Isn't it a shame that you got a 2-ranked LSU, 2-loss ranked LSU, and Maryland can't sniff the top 25 then? This is crazy.
That might be just based off strength of schedule, but I mean, if they win this one, right? What's the spread on that, Justin? Do you know that?
I don't know the spread on
All
the
right, let me look that up. We don't have that one on the screen. I'm sorry. I'm looking it up now, but
yeah,
I like the over. Both teams. Oh, shit. 20-point spread, bro.
Ohio State 20-point favorites?
Ohio State by damn near 3 touchdowns.
That seems too steep, man. I you know me. I'm Ohio State homer through and
through.
Over
under 57 and a half. I think we see 60 points in this game.
But, I've seen Maryland teams, upset Texas a few times. They play up. They don't play down. So, man, I kind of like them to cover the spread at least.
Shit, if they cover the spread, it's going over because that means both teams are scoring. I don't think that Maryland's going to be, that defensive wall to stop Ohio State. I think if anything, baby Tua can just, keep them going up and down the field.
Yeah, I think he can. His arm talent is there. But I mean, that's it for us. For rivalry week for Texas OU, Texas OU, depending on what kind of fan you are. Anything else you want to talk about college football wise before we call it here at 20 minutes?
No, that's all I got. I mean, we got a pretty good slate of ranked teams with good games. So
Notre Dame Louisville is going to be a hell of a game to watch too.
Facts. Louisville's been pretty explosive. But all eyes will be on that Red River rivalry at 11 o'clock start time. That's perfect. I mean, Eddie's probably going to have the pit on at 7:30, 8 o'clock.
It sounds like it's a barbacoa opportunity for us. That's what it
Oh,
sounds
okay.
like to me because it's an alert early game. And then you get to 2:30, and then you're fed with A&M and Alabama, and then you go to 6 o'clock, and you got Kentucky, Georgia. I mean, you take a pick on these games. This is going to be good for us here.
2:30. I'll be watching them Astros, baby.
Well,
That's what
that's
I'm gonna be watching.
3:45, so
3:45. Okay.
that'll be your space. You could start the first half of Alabama A&M, and then move over to the Astros,
And
and
we
we got the
got
Twins,
UFC. And we
and we
got
got the Twins.
UFC.
Okay, not a pay per view though, right? I don't even know who's on the card this week.
It's Grant Dawson versus Bobby Green, one of the more underwhelming.
That's a main card.
That's the main event. That's the main event of
Wow.
the
I
evening.
mean, Bobby Green's a name for a main event, but Grant Dawson is not a main event name.
Yeah, and the co-main they got Joe Pfeiffer.
Wow.
So yeah, the UFC took a break last week, and it seems like
They're
all
running out of
the
fighters to throw fights together, and they said, "Well,
yeah.
Bobby Green's enough. Throw him in the main event."
Hey, but I think this is Makachev Charles Oliveira pay-per-view month that we're into. I think
October 21st.
second.
21st.
Okay, October 21st, Oliveira versus
22nd was the
Makachev
first
too.
one. Yeah, so October 21st.
Yeah, so everything is in full swing. This is when NBA is going to start up here at the end of
Preseason
October as
just coming
well.
up. Man,
Yeah.
this is the best time of the year. Fall baseball, college football, NFL, NBA, hockey's coming back. I mean, if you're a sports fan, this is prime time.
UFC. Yep.
This is prime time.
And then Nagano against it's
Tyson
coming up
Fury?
as well. Tyson Fury. That fight is coming up as well. So shit's gonna be going down, bro.
Yeah.
I already got me tickets to the Rockets versus the Spurs in San
Okay.
Antonio at the end of October. So I'll be in the house to watch the Rockets spank that ass.
Before we leave, I do want to ask you, because we did have a pay-per-view last week. What did you think of Canelo and Charlo?
Underwhelming. Charlo wasn't ready. I mean, props to him for not going out. When he got knocked down, it was maybe, I don't want to say like delayed, but I don't think that it was, I think
He
he
was
was just
getting overwhelmed, and he wasn't hurt. He just went down
yeah,
to stop the overwhelming.
yeah, like, all right, let's chill. Time out.
Yeah.
Hey, you got me, time out. You know what I mean? But he wanted the payday, but it wasn't a real test. And I mean, also for Canelo, I thought that he was going to put him out there for a while. Like I said, after I saw Charlo go down like that, it was more of like you said, like a break. And it's like, oh shit, is this guy quitting? But no, they went the distance. Canelo couldn't get him out of there. The co-main event, I think it's Ramos. Dude got robbed. That's one of the nastiest robberies I've seen in a long time.
Fans were letting the refs know and the judges know, like, they were upset. They were booing.
That was very bad.
And then the Ugas fight, he's not the same after he fought Spence. Like, he went down way too fast as well. So
yeah, Ugas looked horrible. And it was a 2-year layoff, but yeah, he looked horrible. Yeah. Got his ass beat by a dude from San Antonio.
San Antonio represent.
210. Triangle of toughness.
Well, I think that's it for us. For now, Ben, we will be back next week. We're hoping that it goes our way for Texas. Last thing I got to say is hook 'em horns, Ben.
We might have a fucking emergency podcast Saturday night if shit gets crazy.
That'll be something to look forward to. Peace.
Yeah, peace.